How do you keep a romantic relationship healthy even when the day-to-day has left things a bit stale in the bedroom? Well, we'll tell you how, because joining me today are two special guests. They're the founders and directors of the California Center for Healing. As licensed clinical psychotherapists, certified sex addiction therapists, and certified sex therapists, they are sharing all the secrets of intimacy in their new book, From the Living Room to the Bedroom: 6 Steps to True Intimacy and Sexual Abundance. Welcome back to Naked Talk Radio, Doctors Bill and Ginger Bercaw.
Hey, Elena. Thank you. It's good to be back.
Hey.
Hi, Elena.
Hi, guys. It's so good to have you here. We had you on I was going to say Thanksgiving for some reason, on Valentine's Day, and it was so great to have you on, but we covered people in relationships and we covered people who were dating, and so I didn't have as much time to really pick your brain as I wanted to, and I love this book, and I love this whole idea of sexual abundance. So I wanted to bring you back so that we could really elaborate on it. So thank you again for agreeing to come back and play.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having us. It was great the last time, too.
Good. Well, now we have a little more time. So I'm really excited to dig a little deeper and really talk about this new book of yours. And, you know, with your credentials and your experience, you guys are no strangers to the issues of sex and intimacy. But what called you to write this book?
Yeah, well, we'll give you a little history, Elena, and we've talked through some of this the first time around, but for the benefit of your listeners who weren't there on Valentine's Day, who were actually enjoying themselves somehow, somewhere, we really spent much of our careers really working with couples dealing with very severely damaged relationships, those that had been affected by infidelity, and usually not just a one-time deal. Our typical couple had been dealing with active sex addiction. So what we did years ago is we developed a treatment modality, to really help these couples deal with their darkest hours and lead them toward the light. That light we're referring to is intimacy and abundance. So it's really the exact opposite of addiction and codependence. So the same light, though, that all couples really want to be basking in, and that's often what even non-addicted couples find elusive. So we have found that this concept of sexual abundance and the model called sexual abundance therapy that's contained in our book, it works for all relationships, because even when the starting line's different, everyone's trying to reach basically the same finish line, the one where there's really deep, intimate connection and abundant, loving sexuality.
Yeah. Do you think that when there is infidelity, and I understand that sex addiction is kind of a different conversation. I mean, certainly they are sort of all intermingled, but not every infidelity has to do with sex addiction. But do you believe that when there is sexual abundance, there is no place for infidelity?
Oh,
No.
if you're truly experiencing sexual abundance in your relationship, that is probably the best and most effective inoculation to any kind of infidelity, and it's because it's not just about sex. I mean, it's really about the connection that bonds two people together. That's where the great sex comes from.
Right.
So you're not going to be off looking for something better somewhere else, because you realize what you have right in front of you is something you're very, very happy with.
Well, typically when we're seeking something outside of our relationship, isn't it typically because something's missing in our relationship, and that probably has as much or more to do with intimacy than it does with just sex?
Absolutely, Elena. And, I think a lot of times, even when couples, or when there is some infidelity and people are looking for something outside the relationship, sometimes it isn't even just about the relationship they're in, but it's something, from their own history and from their own experiences. Somehow they're feeling less than, or they're feeling resentful or entitled to something else.
Entitlement. That's a big one. Where does that come from?
Yeah.
Well, it can come from many sources,
Yeah.
But that's really the leading edge of infidelity. You're basically writing yourself a permission slip to do what you want with whom you want.
Right.
So many times we trace it back to earlier childhood experiences, certainly that predate the current relationship, and there's a narcissistic component to it. And sometimes there's a neglect component to it also. But whatever the case, the entitlement is, kind of a protective mechanism, that somebody plugs in when they're feeling uncomfortable over a period of time, or, even spontaneously, because this is not going my way, I'm not being treated fairly, I'm not being appreciated, it's okay for me to do this.
Let me ask you this, because I have, like I said, there's so much to cover here, and I really want to be able to address as much as possible, because I think that we have so much power when it comes to abundance and generating what we really desire instead of seeking it out there somewhere else. Would you say that sexual abundance, I mean, obviously it's you have a partner, it's something that you would do together, but is it kind of a personal journey as well?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah.
I think we're both nodding our heads. Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the short answer. It's got to start within, on a very basic level. To experience abundance in any aspect of your life, you need to be connected with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
The most basic truth is around the fact that we have value. It's inherent value. It's inherent worth. It's that which we were born with. And, many times circumstances in our life, young life, and then as we grow, takes us away from that basic truth. And so much of good therapy, by the way, is helping people to reconnect with it, so that the idea of experiencing abundance then becomes more realistic. And of course, our sexuality is necessarily part of who we are. If you're feeling connected with your self-worth and you're able to enjoy the abundance of life, certainly then the idea of sexual abundance becomes more realistic as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That definitely does. So what exactly is sexual abundance? Let's start here.
Okay. Yeah, well, Elena, we really believe that when couples are living in what we call sexual abundance, that it's a way of being in relationship with each other. And when you have sexual abundance, you're really going to be having the best sex that you will ever have, because you're having the most emotionally connected sex as well. So it's really the pinnacle of sexual health. And it doesn't exist, on its own, just sex, just as a separate entity. But it really is, when you're living in sexual abundance, your sexuality is in balance with the rest of your life. And so you're aligned with the emotional connection and the fun in the living room, and how the warm currents from the living room really help to just bring out the natural fun of our sexual times together too. And then the sexual current keeps the living room fun. So it really is all about keeping it in alignment and connected, and all along the way having great communication with that.
So certainly we can have sex in the living room, but in terms of the book, is the living room kind of a metaphor for the other areas of the relationship?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's I guess specifically would be the metaphor for the emotional and connection in your relationship. And if you think of it as a typical room with a door on it, a living room and the bedroom, how some doors, they kind of close naturally on their own after you leave the room.
Right.
To do anything, that's just the way they're hung, and they're gonna close when you leave. We kind of think of the doors on the living room and the bedroom that way also, that given the kind of the natural flow of life, if you don't do anything, those doors are going to gradually go to a closed position. And, actually it's especially true with the bedroom, we think. Mm-hmm. So that means it's really important to think about how can we keep that door propped open. And the way we do it often starts in the living room.